Doctor Who, Spearhead from Space, the first story of the third Doctor, is written by Robert Holmes and starring John Pertwee, Caroline John and Nicholas Courtney. This is the first Doctor Who where it's in colour. This was because of the strike at the BBC Television Centre, which made it impossible for the production team to use video cameras and sets, and also because the BBC decided it was time to bring the series into the new decade in full colour, which I think it's a great example of starting fresh for Doctor Who.
Probably the best name on a colour television.
As Derek Sherwin left to produce Paul Temple's series, although he suggested the entire season to set on Earth after he introduced UNIT, a military who fights aliens, Barry Letts took over as a producer. Because the 60s Doctor Who seasons had over 40 episodes each, which tired the actors out, they cut it down so season 7 has 25 episodes. The story was going to be called Facsimile, but obviously got changed to Spearhead from Space, and it's all shot by film. Due to staff strike at the BBC Television Centre, so the studio was unavailable, so the story had to be filmed entirely on location. It was originally based on a story that Robert Holmes wrote for The Invasion, which features an alien crashing into the rural hospital where a medical examination reveals his alien nature. The hospital is later visited by other aliens seeking a fugitive criminal. The title sequence changed with Darth Vader's shaped vortex looks really cool, even though this came out 7 years before the first Star Wars film, and with a style iconic logo, which is a great design. The logo was added to have more style. It was designed by Bernard Lodge. So the story begins at UNIT's tracking station where that guy has tracked a meteorite and that last thinks it's just a normal meteorite. So the TARDIS arrived in the woods. You'd be thinking why the TARDIS exterior changed just like that in the next shot. Well, that's because of dimensional stabilization circuits malfunctioning on landing side effects. So the third Doctor fell out the TARDIS and unconscious in the long grass. While the meteorite hits near a poacher, Sam Seeley, and he discovers it was a pink sphere that makes a ringing sound. Liz Shaw arrived in Brigadier's office. Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart tells Liz about the past aliens and meteorites that UNIT discovers.
They're living on Earth, or even beyond.
Alien invaders? Little blue men with 3 heads.
But Liz doesn't believe him, so Captain Monroe calls Brigadier that he's found someone in the woods and got taken to hospital. So the Brigadier and Liz arrived at the hospital, making their way through, avoiding news reports and paparazzis, and found the Doctor in bed. Although the Brigadier doesn't recognise him, he doesn't know the Doctor changes his face at the time.
Look here. Can you hear me? Who are you?
Don't you recognise me?
I'm positive we've never met before.
So Brigadier orders Dr. Henderson to take the Doctor into Unit HQ as he thinks he could be a spy, so they left. So while Unit soldiers tell Sam Seeley to push off, the Doctor kept trying to find his shoes, but the nurse kept putting him back to bed. And I just like the moment where Dr. Henderson is like, "How are you feeling?" And the Doctor said, "Shoes. I feel shoes today."
How are you feeling?
Shoes.
I beg your pardon?
Shoes.
So he gave the Doctor his shoes, so he grabbed the shoes off him and snuggled in with it. Apparently the reason why he wants his shoes because his TARDIS key is in there, which is a great place but must be uncomfortable, which I do say the same about Captain Jack hiding his gun in his backside. So Channing and 2 of his men knocked Henderson out and took the Doctor on the wheelchair and took him into the ambulance. And I thought it was pretty clever when the Doctor makes a run for it in the wheelchair. So while shooting and chasing going on, the Doctor makes his way through the woods and gets shot at, intense cliffhanger.
Who told you to fire, you stupid?
So after the Doctor passed out, they realise that they haven't shot him, so he gets taken back to the hospital, and the TARDIS gets taken to the Unit HQ. While Brigadier and Captain Monroe examines a sphere fragment, a lot of plastic baby dolls gets made in the plastic factory, and John Ransom doesn't seem to think that something's right, which is because a lot of staff isn't there anymore, and there's a lot of changes.
There's a lot of changes. And you're new, aren't you?
Brigadier tried to open the TARDIS door, but it wouldn't let him in. And he's thinking, wrong key. Sam Seeley hides a Sophia in his chest, and his wife was a little suspicious. An Auton patrolling woods with the drumming music is pretty terrifying. So while General Scobie pays a visit to the Brigadier in the lab, the Doctor walks into a bathroom where the sign reads, Doctors Only. Well, he's a doctor, so I guess that's passable. I like the Doctor singing while he's taking a shower, and you can see John Pertwee has a tattoo of a snake. I researched it, and apparently they explained that it's a Time Lord criminal tattoos to mark the criminals, which is well explained. While the unit soldier's digging up the sphere, the Doctor got his cool outfit on. He managed to escape the hospital and he nicks the motor car. After unit soldiers put the sphere in the jeep and drove off, an Auton got in the way and caused it to crash, which looked pretty lethal. The Doctor arrived as he got a watch to track the TARDIS down, something that Ian used in the chase. The Doctor looks at the mirror and his new face grew on him.
Flexible, you know. Could be useful on the planet Delphon, where they communicate with their eyebrows.
And Brigadier wouldn't give the Doctor his key back, so Ransom goes back in his plastic factory and look inside his old workshop, and there's a few of Autons lying up next to each other, and one of them came to life and was moving towards Ransom, which leads to cliffhanger. Ooh, scary that. The third Doctor, played by John Pertwee, is amazing. I love his portrayal, outfit, era and chemistry with his companions. He's a fantastic actor and awesome Doctor, and he is my favourite classic Doctor. Like I said, they're all great Doctors. We really don't have a bad one. John Pertwee asked his agent to apply for the role, but his name was already on the shortlist, and was surprised by that. Ron Moody was the first choice, but he was unavailable. So Peter Bryant, along with Derek Sherwin, casted John Pertwee as the Doctor. Caroline John played Liz Shaw, who's the Doctor's assistant for season 7 and scientific advisor. She's a great character, very independent. It's a shame that she only appears in season 7, but she came back later in the 5 Doctors for cameo, but as the illusion of her and Dimensions in Time. Caroline John was recommended to play Liz Shaw, who normally worked on stage, including National Theatre Company. She understandably got frustrated that she didn't get any television role, and apparently she took a dramatic step by taking a photo of herself in bikini and sent it in the BBC producer and ended up in Peter Bryant's office. I think you'll love that. And of course we have Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, played by a legend actor, Nicholas Courtney. Also great to have him back, as I do love the character, especially when he tells people off for being naughty like the Doctor and Sergeant Benton. Pretty amusing, wonderful. Hugh Burden played Channing, who's an Auton and first created by during the Nesting Consciousness's first invasion of Earth. He did a fantastic job playing a creepy villain. John Woodnut played George Hibbert, a director of Autoplastics who created Channing while being hypnotised. John Breslin played Captain James Monroe, who works at a unit and Brigadier's assistant. Neil Wilson played Sam Seeley, who's a poacher and nicks one of those pink spheres, Auton energy. Anthony Webb played a medical Dr. Henderson. Hamilton Dice played General Scobie, who works at the British Army. Derek Smee plays John Ransom, who's a designer of Plastic Doll Factory, which later got replaced as Dummy Factory. Derek Sherwin, the producer of the War Games and Spearhead from Space, cameoed as a unit commissioner who the Doctor couldn't let him speak. The actor who was originally hired for that role was not providing what Derek Martinez, the director, wanted, so Derek Sherwin, who more or less fit the costume, stepped in and played the part instead. The casts did a fantastic job with their roles. Autons are one of the iconic monsters in Doctor Who. They're actually robots that look exactly like plastic shop window dummies, controlled by Nesting Consciousness. And I love those monsters, they're so terrifying. Please, writers of Doctor Who, bring them back! As of time of recording, the last time we saw them on screen was the Pandorica Opens, so let's hope they bring them back. Nesting Consciousness are disembodied being who like I said, controls the Autons. Brilliant story to go with the explanation. How the plastic shop window dummies come to life. The music by Dudley Simpson is great as well. So in part 3, Ransom made a run for it and Channing looked at the Auton to give it a signal to return to its place. So Ransom ran in the woods and passed out, so he got sent to Unit HQ and tells the Brigadier about the Auton. Because of Sam Seeley's obsession with reward, he gets forced to reveal where that sphere is. So Liz steals the TARDIS key to give to the Doctor, and Brigadier wasn't happy as soon as the Doctor went in, and it wouldn't dematerialise, and I do love that sound. So the Doctor is pretty much trapped on Earth as the exiled by the Time Lords. We get a dark and scary moment where Sam's wife finds Auton's meteorite and sound of her dog got killed by an Auton. Sadly the bullets didn't work and, well, she got knocked out by an Auton. Thankfully she's not dead. So the Doctor and Brigadier goes to find her, while Ransom is alone in tent with an Auton and blasted him and his body disappeared. So after Mrs. Seeley gets taken to hospital, they realise that Ransom is gone and the tent was opened from the outside. After Brigadier phones General Scobie about the plastic factory, there was a knock on the door and General Scobie meets his replica, and I find that pretty scary. No! So the plastic Scobie took real Scobie away and phoned Brigadier that plastic factory won't be interfered with. So the Doctor and Liz went in the display and sees few people in there, including Scobie. He noticed something isn't right judging by his watch. So Hibbert caught the Doctor and Liz, so the Doctor lets Hibbert know that Channing is the enemy as he's hypnotised. As Hibbert is back in the lab with Channing, he destroys the place and an Auton kills him. At some point in part 4, the Autons attack the street, which, like I said, a fantastic scene. They're so terrifying. As everyone arrived at the factory being confronted by Plastic Scobie, the Doctor uses a device that looks like a microphone and made Plastic Scobie collapse. So after the Doctor and Liz meet Channing, the tentacle grabs the Doctor, which is effectively for low budget. So Liz took some time to work the machine and eventually she did, which deactivated all Autons, and we learn that Channing is an Auton. So in the end, the Doctor insists to work as a scientific advisor at Unit, and getting a new car as the one he pinched will return to its owner, and the Doctor introduced himself as Dr. John Smith.
Smith. Dr. John Smith.
So, that's Spearhead from space. Fantastic story, great start of an era. What did you think of this story? Let me know in the comments down below. Doctor Who and the Silurians, the second story of the third Doctor, is written by Malcolm Hulke and starring John Pertwee, Caroline John and Nicholas Courtney. So as Barry Letts took over as the producer, Spearhead from Space was shot in film. The story is first to shoot in Colour Studio and Derek Sherwin taking inspiration from Whoniverse.
There could be an affinity, a union between plant and animal with the ability to destroy.
This is where they first introduce Earth creatures, the Silurians. So the story begins with two men climbing down the underground and one of them is killed by a creature and the other escaped. So after the Doctor sings and fixed his new motorcar called Bessie, he takes it for a drive with Liz, and I just love seeing this street in 1970. So the Doctor and Liz arrived in the building that's built in a cave and met up with Brigadier, and they seem to be having trouble with power, so the Doctor figures out what's going on, and he also visited Spencer in the hospital after his friend got killed in the cave. His mind seems to be off when he drew on walls and throttling the Doctor. I was like, whoa! At least the Doctor calmed him down, so while the Doctor tries to explain to the Brigadier what he saw, the power is playing up again. Eventually the Doctor puts his sensible clothes on and he goes down to the cave and looks around the cave and sees a dinosaur. The design is fantastic for a low budget series. The The dinosaur scene in Doctor Who and the Silurians makes the first use in the show of a technique known as colour separation overlay or chroma key. A primary coloured backdrop is used to key an image from another camera in a similar way to our time's green screen technique. As the Doctor was about to get attacked by a dinosaur, the noise seems to distract it, as the Brigadier wasn't happy that Liz didn't tell him earlier that the Doctor went in the cave. The Doctor came back to tell them about the dinosaur. Obviously, Brigadier didn't believe him. As the Doctor, Brigadier, and the soldiers went down to the cave, one of the soldiers gets attacked by a dinosaur. He seemed to be alright. Meanwhile, there's a Silurian patrolling the field, and it's pretty scary. The Doctor and Liz looked at the DNA through the microscope, and that's resembling to reptile. Quinn goes to the control room to warn a Silurian that humans are coming. Poor guy in the Bond gets attacked by a claw, which traumatized his wife. So after taking his corpse away, the Doctor and Brigadier asked his wife, who's in shock, and what she saw. The moment they realise that it's still there, Liz gets attacked, so after Liz got attacked, the creature went away. The Doctor, Brigadier and unit soldiers went to see if she's alright. Luckily she's not dead, so the unit soldiers search around the field, so Quinn turned his tracker on, while the Doctor and Brigadier drive in Bessie to find where the noise is coming from. And he seems to be taken away, so after looking at the footprints, Major Baker refusing to stay in hospital, the Doctor questions Quinn and advises him to let him help, but he's having none of it, and asks the Doctor to leave. So back in the building where the cave is, the Doctor has a meeting with Brigadier, Dr. Lawrence and the soldiers, and Major Baker came in but ended up getting escorted back to the hospital after demanding an action. So later on the Doctor finds Quinn's dead body and there's a Silurian coming behind him.
Hello. Are you a Silurian?
So the Doctor offers Silurian help, but it went away. So later, Major Baker tricks Sergeant to knock him out by getting him to take his jacket off. So Sergeant gets in trouble by Brigadier that he should be prepared. So Major Baker goes into the cave and gets captured by a Silurian. So the Doctor plans to investigate the cave, and Liz wanted to go with him, so she did. The Doctor found a clever way to open the metal door and found Major Baker in the cave, who tells him that Silurian kept questioning him about the Earth.
The population of the Earth, what weapons we use, what food we eat. Don't you see? They are trying to gather information for an invasion.
I think John Pertwee as the third Doctor is brilliant. I love the action hero vibes in him. Caroline John is Liz Shaw, great character. She's independent and a bit of a rebellious. And I think Nicholas Courtney is great as Brigadier. Peter Miles played Dr. Lawrence, who's in charge of Whenley Moore Nuclear Research Facility. Norman Jones plays Major Norman Baker, who's a head of security and really doesn't want to stay in hospital as he wanted action in the cave. Fulton Mackay played John Quinn, who's a deputy and made a contact to Silurian and wants to keep it to himself, but eventually gets killed. Thomasine Heiner played Phyllis Dawson, who's Quinn's assistant at the Whenley Moore Nuclear Research Facility. Paul Darrow as Captain Sam Hawkins, a unit officer. Jeffrey Palmer played Edward Masters, who's Paramount Under Secretary. Ian Talbot played a young technician, Travis. The cast did a great job. I do love the design of Silurians. I thought they're pretty cool. Just like the Sea Devils, they're the reptile prehistoric race who lived on Earth before humans did, and they want it back because it's their planet. Carrie Blyton does a great music. The atmosphere fits in well. So the Doctor and Liz left Major Baker for a bit and they met a dinosaur. So while Travers is dealing with Cyclotron, the Doctor and Liz walks into Dr. Lawrence and Masters' meeting, wanting to speak to Brigadier, and he made it just in time.
I must find the Brigadier.
May I ask who you are?
You may ask. Well, there you are.
I've only just heard that you were here.
Masters doesn't believe that there's anyone in the caves. Brigadier needed more evidence. The Doctor thought it would be best to make contacts with them on his own, so he did and gets locked up in the cage and about to be killed by Silurians.
I have destroyed them, and now I shall destroy you.
So a Silurian leader stopped him and a couple of Silurians were arguing. Brigadier and his soldiers patrolled in the cave, Liz tells Masters and Miss Dawson that the Doctor met up with Silurians and obviously wasn't happy about it. The Doctor gets Silurian leader to agree to share the planet with humans.
I believe with your advanced technology that you could build cities in parts of the world that man has hitherto completely ignored.
But young Silurian came and said it's their planet.
Decided that it is possible for the two species to live together on this planet. This planet is ours!
As soon as Major Baker got free, he has a fight with Silurians and got away. Brigadier came back in a terrible state as he's lost a lot of his men. Major Baker seems to be infected with virus. Because a lot of Silurians are refusing to share the planet with humans, the Doctor has to make a cure for the disease. So the Doctor came back and warned everyone to keep away from Major Baker. He ended up getting taken to hospital, and Liz tried to tell him not to take him there, but they didn't listen, so the Doctor and Brigadier drove up to hospital and find Major Baker died. Sadly, Silurian and Sergeant Hart gets killed by Silurians. While the Doctor is working on the cure, there was quite a few people in the street got infected, and Brigadier must be frustrated speaking to a couple of telephones at once.
Excuse me, William. Will you hold on, please? Yes, of course, I'll let you know as soon as I get any result that's at all positive. Goodbye.
It reminds me of 1960s Spider-Man cartoon series where J. Jonah Jameson was holding 4 receivers. So after Liz gets asked to leave the Doctor alone, she went to Brigadier and Dr. Lawrence, who got infected and throttled a Brigadier and sadly died. So the Silurians broke into the lab where the Doctor is and stung him. So the Doctor gets taken back to the cave. Brigadier gets informed that there's no further reports. While there's a battle in the cave, the Doctor tried to reason with young Silurian. They tell the Doctor that to render the Earth uninhabitable and they need the power from the cyclotron. Sadly, they killed Hawkins as he saved the Brigadier. And it's a shame that this guy doesn't get enough credit for it. So later on, the Doctor works on the providing power to the dehibernation unit and activate the disperser. As the Silurian are distracted, and in the base, the Doctor and Liz drove up the field, and there was few explosions. Sadly, Brigadier committed genocide and killed all Silurians.
Intelligent alien beings. A whole race of them. He's just wiped them out.
So yeah, this is a great story. It has great atmosphere. What did you think of this story? Let me know in the comments down below. Doctor Who, The Ambassadors of Death, the third story of the third Doctor, is written by David Whittaker, Trevor Ray, Malcolm Hulke and Terence Dix, and starring John Pertwee, Caroline John, Nicholas Courtney and John Levine. So originally Patrick Troughton was going to be in this story as the second Doctor along with Fraser Hines and Wendy Padbury as Jamie and Zoe, but they left the show at the end of season 6, so the writers were finding a way to fit the story with new casts. So the title was going to be The Invaders from Mars, which later got used in Big Finish.
Now, history records the King getting soggy ankles, but not until I'd intervened. Someone had been meddling.
Who?
One TARDIS, one 24th century Palthidian flood controller, and an amoral Time Lord later, King Canute really did turn back the tide.
And Carriers, and then obviously the Ambassadors of Death. And I love how they experiment on the title sequence where they get into certain situations and we get the Vortex telling us the name of the episode. Plus, you might have noticed that I used that at the end of my Whoniverse retrospectives because I thought it's stylish. So the filming took place Blue Circle, Cement in Kent, Marlow, Lock in Buckinghamshire, Southall Gas Works in Middlesex, and few sites in Aldershot, Hampshire. So this story begins at the Space Control with Professor Cornish communicating with a couple of astronauts in Mars Probe 7.
How do we know they're still alive?
You took off from Mars manually. It must have been alive then.
Something took off from Mars.
So throughout a couple of parts of this story, Michael Wisher played John Wakefield, a news reporter who tells us what happens in the story, which is great.
In a few minutes we shall know the answer to the question that has been occupying the minds of everyone here at Space Control since Mars Probe 7.
While Brigadier came in and looks into the proceedings in the Space Center, the Doctor got his console out of the TARDIS and trying to work it, so him and Liz Shaw kept disappearing and reappearing. He tells her that they got sent 15 seconds into the future.
Well, we both got caught in the time warp field and were projected into the future.
Into the future?
Yes. but only about 15 seconds.
The Doctor is surprised to see Brigadier in Space Control on TV. He's still upset the fact that he blew up the whole Silurian race. As Charlie opens the airlock, he gets captured by Ambassador Race, and the noise seems to happen in the Space Control. Scary stuff. So the Doctor and Liz arrive in the Space Control. He says the sound is a message, a series of high-frequency, accelerated impulses. We also get a great gunfight scene in the warehouse. And eventually Sergeant surrenders as he hesitated to kill the Brigadier. After the Brigadier sees an explosive ticking and explodes, the Doctor and Liz arrived in the computer room and Taltalian is holding them hostage as he closed the door. Taltalian wanted the tape, so the Doctor gives it to him, and I thought it was pretty cool when it disappeared like that.
Since you insist.
So Brigadier came in and Taltalian did look like he was about to take Liz hostage, but he threw her on the floor and ran off as Brigadier tried to get after him, but he lost him. So the Doctor and Brigadier question Sergeant, but he doesn't answer. So the Doctor asked him if he wanted a cup of tea, and I find it amusing when the Doctor shouted to stand up straight and call him Sir.
Had a cup of tea?
Yes, thanks.
That's good.
Stand up attention when you're talking to me and call me sir.
That's pretty amusing. After the Doctor and Brigadier left, a mysterious soldier knocks a unit soldier out and lets Sergeant out. So we get an epic gun battle with helicopter in the street roads. The Doctor tricks two men driving the truck into magnetising their hands onto Bessie by telling him that he needed a push. So the Doctor steals the truck, and before we know it, the capsule is there, and the Brigadier was surprised to see it. So the Doctor and Brigadier tells James Quinlan everything that has happened and their theory that there is a mole. So after the Doctor and Brigadier left, it reveals that James has hidden Taltalian in the cupboard, and because everyone's getting the same answer from Van Leyden in the radio saying nothing but "we are not cleared for re-entry," the Doctor tells everyone to cut the capsule open.
Oh, this is Recovery 7. Will you clear us for re-entry?
Van Leyden.
We're not cleared for re-entry.
Right, cut it open.
Not sure if it's a good idea, but it turns out to be empty, although it was a tape recorder, so the Doctor and Brigadier wanted an answer from James Quinlan, but he won't give any. However, he sends General Carrington in. He explains that he's the head of the newly formed Space Security Department, and that his actions were to protect the astronauts as they had been infected with contagious radiation. Meanwhile, Regan dumps a couple of corpses in the gravel quarry. While the Doctor and Liv examines the radiation, Lennox and Regan are in the underground laboratory putting an astronaut in the isolation chamber, but Regan gets attacked and Lennox tries to run for it.
It's all right. I want to help you. Can't you understand?
But Regan gets attacked and Lennox runs up the stairs and can't get out. He gets cornered, which is pretty intense, but the astronaut passed out and is back in the isolation. Because Brigadier didn't send for Liz, he needed to go after her. We get a cool car chase scene. As soon as they overtook Bessie, Liz ran in the bridge with two men chasing one of them, dangling off the bridge, and Liz was about to fall. And I was like, whoa! So the two men helped Liz up and took her to the lab to see Lennox. The Doctor gets told on the phone that Liz would be killed if he doesn't stop interfering.
You have found her? No. Someone threatening to kill her if I don't stop interfering.
So Liz tried to get out, but the Doctor is locked and Lennox wouldn't go anywhere. But he gave Liz the key and she manages to escape. As the Doctor confronts Titalian, he leaves. While Liz does a bit of a hitchhiking, a car pulled over and there was Titalian driving. Which I think that's the reason why hitchhiking's now illegal. So Liz gets taken to the lab. John Pertwee again is brilliant as the third Doctor. Caroline John and Nicholas Courtney are great as Liz Shaw and Lethbridge Stewart. I do love John Levine as Sergeant Benton. He's canny, funny and very likeable. They should bring him back, and I like it when he's a bit naughty and Brigadier tells him off. It is pretty amusing. It's great that he appeared in Invasion and came back as the main character in John Pertwee's era and a couple of Tom Baker's stories. John Abernethy played Colonel George Carrington, who's actually a villain, who's a British military officer and the head of Space Security Service. Great performance. Michael Wisher played John Wickfield, news reporter, as I already mentioned. Splendid. Ronald Allen played Ralph Cornish, a controller of Space Control. Robert Cordron played Bruno Tartalian, who's a scientist and in charge of computers at Space Control. Caroline John's husband, Jeffrey Beavers, played Jeff Johnson, unit soldier, who detected the Doctor's distress signal from Regan's hideout. He later played the Master in The Keeper of Traken. William Dysart played Regan, a criminal that was hired by General Carrington. Cyril Schaps played Viner in The Tomb of the Cybermen, played Lennox in his story, who's a poor scientist that gets treated unfairly. Cyril later played Professor Herbert Clegg in Planet of the Spiders, and Arachimandrite in The Androids of Tara. The cast did a great job. Those alien ambassadors are the peaceful radiation humanoids, like peaceful zombies, if you like. They could kill you with radiation energy from their hands, and I thought that cool and scary. The music, again by Dudley Simpson, is fantastic. While Lennox thanked Liz for not grassing him up and controlled the astronauts, Taltalian touched the briefcase, which is a bomb. He was about to kill the Doctor, but he blew himself up, and the Doctor realised that Taltalian was a weak link, and that him and the Doctor were to be getting rid of. The music in this scene where an astronaut went through the barrier and killed the soldier is nicely done. James wanted the Doctor to see him, so he goes in the office just after James is killed, and we get an intense moment where the astronaut is moving towards the Doctor. Luckily, Brigadier made it in, so that astronaut got away. Liz got Lennox to lie to the guards, so he goes to the unit and he requests Sergeant Benton to lock him up for safety and wait till Brigadier comes. The Doctor gets ready for launch as he's in the spacesuit. It's pretty lethal in the fuel bay when Regan pushed a guy over the railings and fall to his death. Woof! And because the fuel is sabotaged, the Brigadier ordered the countdown to stop, but it was too late. The Doctor lifted into space. He connected to another capsule as he communicates with Professor Cornish, but then there's some sort of bright light saucer coming for him. So the Doctor walks into Recovery 7 and sees 3 astronauts, Van Leyden, Michaels and Leffy, who seems to enjoy themselves. The Doctor tries to rescue them, but they think that they're on Earth. Must be perception filter. But actually they get mind controlled by the alien, reveals to be the ambassador. And I like the voice, I thought it's pretty cool. So the Doctor decided that he came back for them. So after he landed back and decontamination room, the Doctor puts his clothes back on, the gas puts him to sleep, and he gets taken by Regan. Poor Lennox gets murdered by isotape. General Carrington is growing suspicious on the Doctor, but Professor Cornish and Brigadier didn't believe that the Doctor is a suspect. So Carrington left. As the Doctor reunites with Liz in the lab, he couldn't get himself out. He's there to upgrade the device to control those astronauts. So then General Carrington came, and it was mind-blowing when we find out he was a villain and plans to kill the Doctor.
I'm sorry, Doctor. It's my moral duty.
However, Regan suggested to keep the Doctor alive to upgrade the machine to mind control, so after the Brigadier got arrested by General Carrington, he manages to get himself out of this. He gets Army to battle. They rescue the Doctor and Liz. The Doctor lets Astronaut through the gate, and eventually, as General Carrington tries to get John Wakefield to expose that astronaut in the tank, Brigadier, the Doctor and unit soldiers arrived in time to arrest General Carrington. He said to the Doctor that it was his instructions, and the Doctor said he understand. So yeah, the story has got great ideas. It does have suspense elements. What did you think of this story? Let me know in the comments down below. Doctor Who Inferno, the 4th story of the 3rd Doctor, is written by Don Horton and starring John Pertwee, Caroline John, Nicholas Courtney and John Levine. Don is a friend of Terence Dicks, and they both worked on Crossroads while on train, and they discussed on the idea to have a story based on a drilling project known as Project Mahole. Budgetary limitations eventually led to the concept of the parallel world, so the actors have got something to do for 7 parts. Douglas Camfield sadly had a little heart attack, so he only directed the first 2 parts and Barry Letts took over the rest. So the story begins with the Doctor driving Bessie, does this nice song of La Donna Immobile and drove into the restricted area. Professor Stallman was pretty annoyed when Sir Keith was interfering fixing the output pipe. As Harry Slocum was trying to fix the pipe, there was green goo touching him and it's turning green. Scary there. speaking of scary, as he runs outside he attacks a scientist, so the Doctor arrives in Brigadier's office looking at photos while the young Brigadier is. And poor Brigadier, the Doctor commenting about his moustache, and even Sergeant Benton was laughing until Brigadier gave him a cold stare. That's hilarious. As everyone figures out how to fix those pipes, the Doctor arrives looking at results and meeting Sir Keith and Greg Sutton, saying that they should be heading the warnings of the computers. So after the Doctor asks the unit soldier about Slocum's whereabouts, he has a cool gadget resembling to Sonic Screwdriver called Door Handle, so him and Liz were trying to work the TARDIS console, so the Doctor disappeared with the console and he's in the limbo, and I love that scene, it's pretty effective. So Liz forced the lever down and the Doctor came back with the console. He seemed to be knackered after that. So the alarm sets off and the smoke comes through. There's Professor Stallman and Sir Keith arguing if it was emergency. As the Doctor and Brigadier arrived in the office, they found a body and there's Slocum, whose face completely grey, coming in. As they kept still, a unit soldier tried to shoot him but wrestled him. After Slocum died, they noticed a scourge and apparently it's the heat that keeps him going. So we get a cool scene where the Doctor went after a unit soldier who looks like he's turning into Hulk.
Now, Quark, listen to me. You need help.
As they ran on the balcony and Soldier tries to whack the Doctor, he falls off the balcony. Brigadier complains to Professor Stallman that 3 men died in the establishment. We get a funny scene where the Doctor does Venetian karate on Professor Stallman. The Brigadier's like, "Doctor, what do you think you're doing?"
I tell it! Doctor! What else do you think you're doing?
Venusian karate.
So through this part, Professor Stallman thinks he knows what he's doing, fixing those pipes to prevent destroying the Earth's crust and wanting the Doctor to stay out of it. So the Doctor goes to fix the console again. Brigadier and Liz walks in and sees the Doctor disappeared, so he goes to tell Professor Stallman about it, but he's happy with it, and Brigadier is worried that the fact there's murders, Professor Stallman seemingly to blow up the Earth if he gets it wrong, and the Doctor disappeared. So the Doctor ended up in parallel Earth and he sees a lot of stuff have been moved, and a poster of the leader saying unity is strength. The poster of John Kine is a homage to a TV program called 1984. Sadly the door handle device didn't work on the door, so he did it the old-fashioned way, and outside looked pretty deserted. So the Doctor got into Bessie and there were soldiers shooting at him and he had no idea what was going on, so he gets chased. Apparently the stuntman Alan Chunds that gets hit by Bessie, he was seriously injured and got taken to A&E, and John Pertwee felt really bad when he found out he caused it. He was so ill and nearly couldn't continue filming until a few hours later. I'd be the same if I did that to poor stuntman. And of course accidents happen, so Pertwee brought some gifts to Alan and his wife to apologise, and obviously John is a nice bloke, I wish I met him. As the Doctor finds a place to hide, the Doctor climbs on the storage tank area and he has a fight with Bromley, who passed out because it's cold. So eventually the Doctor finds Liz in RSF uniform with different hairstyle and he's confused, and Liz points a gun at him and signals Sergeant Benton and the soldiers, so the Doctor gets taken to Brigadier, who's got no moustache but he's wearing an eye patch with scar like Nick Fury, who reveals to be brigade leader.
Brigadier, will you kindly tell me what
Is this the man?
The Doctor realises he's in parallel Earth, and there's quite a few differences. There's brigade leader Lethbridge Stewart, section leader Elizabeth Shaw, and platoon under leader Benton. The Doctor tells them about parallel Earth, but they think the Doctor is mad. However, he gets taken to see Professor Stallman when he needed to see Sir Keith after sharing his knowledge about the drill and the people running it. Director Stallman reveals to have Green Hand. The Doctor is to be executed without trial, as they accused him of being a spy. It was Defence of the Republic Act 1943. Ooh, blimey.
You can't possibly have the authority to
I
do
have
anything
full
like...
authority, Defence of the Republic Act 1943.
Republic?
Yes.
As the Doctor is alone with Benton, he jabs his 2 fingers on his neck, so the Doctor went out and fixing the computer. But Director Stallman gave the Doctor's hiding place away, and Benton was about to shoot the Doctor.
Idiot, if I don't repair this computer, you'll...
Are you coming with me quietly, or do I shoot you here and now?
so Elizabeth Shaw allowed the Doctor to fix the computer and helps them fixing the pipes. But sadly they're ungrateful, so in the office, as they keep questioning the Doctor asked Elizabeth Shaw if she was thinking of becoming a scientist.
I read physics at university. What's that got to do with it?
Simply that her mind process runs along a similar parallel to yours.
Greg seems to be the only one who knows the Doctor is trying to help. After the Doctor gets tortured by shining a lamp on his face and can't tell him the information that doesn't exist, he gets taken to the cage, and Elizabeth Shaw continues to question the Doctor again. John Pertwee is great as the third Doctor. I always liked his Venetian karate as they're pretty entertaining. Caroline John is great as Liz Shaw. In parallel version, I'm just going to call her Elizabeth Shaw to save the confusion. Unlike her other version, she's a secretary, a section leader, and evil at first, but then helps the Doctor getting back to his universe. Caroline John really enjoyed her role playing a villain, and she did a great job at this. Sadly, this is the last story we see Liz Shaw until the 5 Doctors, because Caroline was pregnant, which is why she gets replaced by Katie Manning as Jo Grant. Nicholas Courtney again is great as Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. In Parallel Universe, he's Brigade Leader Lethbridge Stewart, who's a villain, and Nicholas really enjoyed it, and it's his favourite story, which I can definitely see why. I always loved John Levine as Sergeant Benton. The one in Parallel Universe, unlike the one we know, is a platoon under Leader Benton, and my god, he's so cruel and brutal, because the one we know is normally caring and funny. Christopher Benjamin played Sir Keith Gold, the executive director of the Inferno project, and the one in Parallel died in a car accident. Christopher Benjamin later played Henry Gordon Jaco and Colonel Hugh. Olaf Pooley played Professor Eric Stahlman, is a head scientist of the Inferno project. In Parallel Earth, he's director Eric Stahlman. Sheila Dunn played Petra Williams, who's Stahlman's assistant. In Parallel, she's Dr. Petra Williams, who's second in command of the Inferno project. Originally, Kate O'Mara was considered for the role, but she was unavailable and later played the Ronnie in the 80s. Derek Newalk, who played Zat in An Earthly Child in the story, played Greg Sutton, a drilling expert, and kept advising Professor Stallman, but the professor doesn't approve. In Parallel Universe, he's a drilling engineer and got locked up because of his liberation political beliefs and forced to work at Inferno project. The cast did so well with their roles, and you can tell they enjoy their parts they're given to. Primords are infected humans created by Professor Stallman's slime, and I thought they're pretty cool. And I think the story is well written and directed, and I love the stock music, especially the atmosphere of it. It fits in perfectly. So the real universe, the Brigadier told Liz that his men couldn't find the Doctor anywhere, but he says he can look after himself, whichever or whenever he is. But Liz points out that he's not indestructible. And with the drilling going on, Sir Keith said the Doctor is better off out of it. So in Parallel Universe, a Primord woke up, God came in to calm him down, but got attacked, the Doctor got himself free and makes a run for it. He grabs a white safety suit, joins people in those suits to be in disguise. As they're in central control, the brigade leader caught him using those controls, so the Doctor reveals to himself that he's trying to save everyone, but no one except Greg believed him, and the countdown led to cliffhanger.
3, 2, 1, 0. We have penetration 0.
So parts of the building get exploded, and the slime leaks, so everyone evacuated the room while the planet is exploding. The soldiers go outside patrolling around, and everyone argues a bit. The Doctor said that the TARDIS console is the only way it could help to stop the Earth getting destroyed, and as they're in the hut, Brigade Leader demanded the Doctor to take him, but he couldn't take anyone because of the paradox. And I love the scene where there's like army of Primords, there's great action and really suspense.
Break for your office. Benton, get out!
We also learn that in the real universe, Sir Keith has a car accident, but unlike his parallel version, he survived but got his arm broken. So after Primord tried to break in, the Doctor uses a fire extinguisher to stop it. So the whole group plans to get to the control and attack Primords. Obviously their weakness is cold, so they did. In normal universe, I love the bit where Brigadier shouted, giving Sergeant Benton orders to bring Professor Stallman. It's pretty amusing. And when he's like, carrying him if you have to.
Chance to use your initiative, Sergeant! Sir! Carry him here if you have to, but get him! Sir!
Back in Parallel, while the Doctor is using control, Greg uses fire extinguisher to keep the Primords away. Benton gets infected. Brigade Leader plans to use the Doctor's TARDIS consoles, so at the hut we get an intense moment where Brigade Leader tried to stop him, but luckily Elizabeth shot Brigade Leader, so the Doctor along with his TARDIS console couldn't disappear at first but then disappeared, along with Bessie, while the lava is coming towards the door where Elizabeth Shaw, Dr. Petra Williams and George are. So the Doctor is back in his universe. Liz and Sergeant Benton came in to see if he was alright. So Benton brought Brigadier in the room as the Doctor is pretty ill and unconscious for quite some time. So he tells Liz to reverse all process. Professor Stallman orders Petra to pass on his instructions, so Liz orders everyone to do it. The Doctor woke up and revealed that Sir Keith isn't dead, and he noticed that he can make a difference in his universe. So he goes to Central Control and orders it to stop drilling, not to penetrate the Earth's crust, but he gets taken away after when he's tried to smash the computer. Professor Stallman turns out to be infected. After the Doctor outrun a couple of unit soldiers, he hides in the storage tank area and he finds Bromley infected. So the Doctor uses fire extinguisher on him, so they manage to stop the drilling and everyone's happy.
All systems closed.
So in the end, the Doctor argues with Brigadier and disappeared with his console, and Liz think the Doctor is gone because of Brigadier. The Doctor came back and left his console in the rubbish tip. A few seconds forward in space and time.
The rubbish tip?
The rubbish tip.
Oh dear.
So Brigadier tells his men to return the Doctor's console with Liz laughing. So that's Inferno, and this is a really fantastic story. I really enjoyed it. What did you think of Inferno and Season 7? Let me know in the comments down below. I think it's a brilliant season, great start for the third Doctor. The collection Season 7 gives us not only updated effects behind the sofas and surround sounds, it gives us restored episodes including colorized The Ambassadors of Death and movie-length omnibus versions of the Silurians and Inferno. It also features Splendid Chap, a profile of Nicholas Courtney, Looking for Mac, a documentary on writer Malcolm Hulke. Terror in the Suburbs explores the Third Doctor's Earthbound era. Lucky 13 Rockets, Alien and Spare Parts examines how 1970s science influenced the show, and Caroline John and Barry Letz's convention appearance in 1994. As always, thanks for watching and see you all in the next video.